All right, some breaking news into Sports Center. The Eagles win again, and we're still pushing tushes. NFL owners did not vote to ban the signature tush-push play at the league meetings in April. The Packers' proposal only got 16 votes. This time, Adam Schefter reports that 22 owners were in favor of the ban, but 24 were needed to push it over the goal line, which means the Eagles beat the Packers in this vote 22-10. And Jeremy Fowler, the Eagles beat the Packers in the wild card round 22-10. You can't make up the symmetry. You were there. Take us through the process of this vote.
Yeah, Matt, late morning, NFL owners emerged from their meetings. They voted 22-10. The league thought it made a convincing argument here because their health and safety committee recommended that they ban the push play, pushing or pulling any ball carrier. The NFL competition committee did the same. So they were able to sway some votes. Back in March, they only got 16 to 32 votes. This time, 22. So closer. It is something they could revisit next March at the annual meetings, but right now it simply was not enough.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is one of those storylines that comes up in the offseason where it's kind of a polarizing argument, right, between who wants what. So we said yesterday that it looked like it could be going out, but in fact it's not. So how are people reacting in Minnesota today?
Yeah, Matt, there was an element of surprise walking out of this building. In fact, some Eagles people were surprised. They walked out thinking that they didn't know what was going to happen. It could go either way, truly, and it was that close. But, you know, talking to some owners here in the building, the Eagles did a good job of potentially swaying some teams that could have been on the fence. I talked to Steelers president Art Rooney II, who said that Jason Kelce and his presence, him explaining the tush-push play, why it's effective, why it's not really an injury risk at all, could have swayed some teams. And so the Eagles came full frontal with a plan. Owner Jeffrey Lurie gave an impassioned speech to the crowd, basically saying, look, to be proficient at something only for it to be taken away would be unfortunate.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit yesterday on Sports Center, that they would ban something that works and no one can stop. We just showed the graphic there, the teams that voted in favor of it. They don't play the Eagles this year, so they don't have to worry about it. And the Eagles took to social media. You know, they were having fun with it. Look at this social media post. Push on. Good for them. Well done, with the Packers in the background, which makes it even better. And just more reaction from around social media on teams and what they were thinking of this rule. The breaking news from Adam Schefter, he had it. But everyone really lining up to give their opinion on the infamous tush-push that will live for another season. So what else happened out there this morning?
Yeah, a few things shook out, Matt. The Lions had proposed a playoff reseeding. That got tabled. I'm told the Lions did so because they knew it didn't have enough legs to pass. But there is an appetite among the ownership to eventually reseed, especially if they go to 18 games. Commissioner Roger Goodell, when I asked him, did acknowledge that that's a possibility down the road. So that's on the radar. Buffalo Bills will be the next Hard Knocks recipient. That's some hard news to come out of here. Also, the league announced that they will implement a Protector of the Year award going to the league's best offensive linemen. So the big fellas will be recognized.
You know what? It's about time the big uglies up front get some due. They protect the franchise quarterback. Give them something. We gave you Jeremy Fowler. You win. Thank you.
Push has not been banned. That Packers proposal that needed a 75% vote total from NFL owners does not get through, comes up a few votes short. That came after Jeff Lurie and Eagles center, retired Eagles center, Jason Kelce, spoke very much in favor of keeping this play, and they spoke to the owners around the league. It's a huge victory for the Eagles, who obviously used that play to win a Super Bowl title this past season and have been using it almost to perfection over the last several years. Let's hit this from every angle. We've got Jonathan Jones, our lead NFL insider. We've got Lige Douzable, former defensive lineman, Kyle Long, former offensive lineman. JJ, I'm going to start with you because you go offshore earlier in the day. You could find a number to bet on this, and it was minus 500 that this would be banned. So what happened?
I mean, it was close. You know, folks probably should have been tuned into CBS Sports HQ, where we said it would be close. And it was, right? I mean, if 2 more votes would have gone for this rules proposal, we'd be talking, we'd have a much different segment right now. Ultimately, what happened was what happens in all of these owners' meetings. We can prognosticate, we can talk about the feelings going into a meeting, all of those things. But then these owners get there, and then they talk amongst themselves, right? They got to the Minneapolis area on Tuesday. They had their first day of meetings. They voted on the Olympics, and it wasn't really much of a debate at all. Then they got to chatting last night. And then Jeffrey Lurie goes up and he talks passionately but fairly, I was told by one source, not just about the tush push, but about a number of issues across the NFL, really kind of weaving some yarn that had a great thematic element to it that more or less said, hey, folks should speak up if they feel that ultimately things are a little unjust. And it wasn't just a tush push. And also Jason Kelce, he spoke. He was accompanied by video of the plays. I assume, having talked with folks there, that he was discussing how to execute the play, why there is perhaps a 0% injury rate on the play. Now, the Health and Safety Committee had said, yes, 0%, but what about the potential for a catastrophic injury? The Competition Committee was in favor of this ultimately being done away with. Not just this play, but the pushing and pulling of any ball carrier anywhere on the field. After those speeches, then they go into what's known as a privilege session. It's 1 per team is what you know it as. So one owner goes in there and they all cast their vote. That is the papal conclave of the NFL. And then we saw, of course, really, I guess you'd call it black smoke because the play was not banned. And so that is ultimately what just took place this morning in Minneapolis. That's why whatever we thought ahead of time, after these speeches, after the rallying and the campaigning, ultimately it fell 2 votes short of being banned, depending on your perspective. If the glass is half full, you got two votes that 2 more votes than you needed.
Well, let's get perspective from both sides of the line. Kyle Long used to run 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 plays on the offensive side. Lige Douzable tried to stop it. Kyle, I'll let you go first on this as a former All-Pro offensive lineman. How do you feel about the tush push not being banned?
Well, I think, JJ made a beautiful point about the papal conclave, and there was black smoke. The play wasn't banned. Really, it was green smoke because the Philadelphia Eagles are the team that have mastered it. And that's really the only reason we're here having this conversation today. The Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles can do something offensively that other teams just cannot. And they do it so much more often. And I think while the competition committee, the rules people, they want to make an argument about the health, but really it's a competitive issue in their eyes because they just ain't doing it like the Philadelphia Eagles. And if everybody could do it, they would all be running the tush push like the Philadelphia Eagles. But the way that Howie Roseman has constructed his roster, the quarterback that they have, obviously Saquon Barkley making his way to Philadelphia, there's a dozen ways to get this tush push done. And yeah, it's not a sexy football play. And I'm sure there was a lot of people when we first did the forward pass that said, well, that's just unfair because Johnny's got a better arm than everybody. Well, why don't you figure out how to train arm strength everybody else? And for the other 31 teams, you better find a way to capitalize on the tush push, because as an offensive lineman, I'm going to push you out of your way against your will. That's just the name of the game. This is football in its simplest form. It should remain in the game.
Yeah, Hass, I'm glad this wasn't banned. And Chris alluded to it. To me, this comes down to competition. I think JJ, put it perfectly when you talk about the potential of injury. My thing is, there's a potential for injury on every single football player. So are we going to change the sanctity of the game? Because every single play, you could get hurt. Right now, there's a 0% injury risk factor in this play that has been documented. There is no historical documentation showing that this play, there's a higher risk of getting injured or not getting injured. I love what DeMeco Ryan said when it came down to the tush push. It's hard to really go against a team that does something better than everybody else just because they do it at a high level. Like, it's hard to really hold that against them. To me, it's a competition thing, and teams are just mad because they do it at an elite level or a higher level than most teams do it. My thing, again, if it was safety, if it came down to safety and health issues, then I understand wanting to ban it. But the potential of an injury, there's a potential of an injury on every single play. So I think the owners got this right. by not banning this. The Philadelphia Eagles were very inventive in creating this play. Now it's up to defensive coordinators to be inventive in trying to slow it down.
And as JJ has pointed out many times, this wasn't just a ban on the tush push. If it would have gone through, it would have banned the pushing of a ball carrier down the field as well. So JJ, I guess what is the, you got double jeopardy in the courtrooms. What's next? I mean, now that the tush push is safe, is this going to be off the table to try to ban at all for the foreseeable future? And does that mean we're not going to change the pushing of, say, a tight end down the field as well?
That's a great question. And the answer is we'll just have to see. We'll have to see the 2025 season. Lige just talked about, again, the injury rate being 0%. There aren't that many plays, right? There's only, the Philadelphia Eagles run it the most. They don't run it that often, right? All 32 teams don't really even attempt it. A lot of teams that do attempt it aren't successful at it. And so in 2025, are we going to see more teams practice it in training camp, debut it in the regular season? Is it going to be successful? Will that injury rate remain 0%? I think all of us level-headed gentlemen right here would say if the injury rate ticks up above 0%, we could see this being prohibited from the game. We could see two other teams voting against it rather than for it, like we saw today. So we'll just have to see what winds up happening. I like your phrase and how you question that with double jeopardy. This can absolutely come back up next year. Okay. There is nothing holding it back from coming back next year, and we'll see if sort of ideas, emotions have changed at that point.
All right, so the tush push lives at least one more season in the NFL. Jonathan Jones with us along with our...
Thanks for watching. You're tuned into the ES3N network. We appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a drop. Got thoughts or theories? Drop them in the comments. We read them all. Share this video to help keep important stories alive. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, there's always more to the story. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. But stay tuned. Coming up next, I'll be adding even more value by showing you exactly how to get started with your knitting journey.